The crystal halls of the council station sparkled with light from 1,000 different worlds. Representatives from 847 alien species filled the massive chamber. Their voices created a strange symphony of clicks, whistles, and electronic sounds as they talked among themselves. Ambassador Sarah Chun stood at the human platform, her hand steady despite knowing what was coming. She had served Earth for 20 years, but today would be her last day as humanity's voice in the Galactic Council. Ambassador Kiratal of the Vorthek hegemony rose from her floating platform. Her 6 arms spread wide as she addressed the assembly. The translation devices made her words clear to every species present. Honorable delegates, Kiratal began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. Today we vote on humanity's place in our peaceful galaxy. The evidence is clear. Humans are dangerous. Sarah watched as holographic displays showed human colonies across space. 200 worlds in just 150 years. The numbers looked impressive, but Sarah knew they told only part of the story. Look at their expansion, Kiratal continued. No species in Council history has spread so fast. They take territories without asking permission. They build weapons when we have peace. They refuse to share their technology with the Council. The Zentaran delegate floated forward on his anti-gravity platform. His blue skin flickered with angry patterns. Humans are warriors by nature, he said. We have seen their history. They fight each other for thousands of years. Now they bring that violence to space. Sarah felt the mood in the chamber shift. Fear was an easy emotion to spread, especially when it came to the unknown. Humans were still new to galactic politics. Most species had been part of the Council for thousands of years. Another delegate spoke up. This one was from the Crystalline Collective. They refused to follow our resource-sharing protocols. Every other species contributes their discoveries to the common good. Humans keep secrets. Sarah had heard these arguments before. The Council wanted humanity to hand over their medical research, their terraforming techniques, and especially their military technology. Earth had always refused, saying some knowledge was too dangerous to share freely. More delegates joined the accusations. They spoke of humanity's reckless behavior during the Kepler crisis, where human ships had violated Council space to rescue civilian populations. They mentioned the Andromeda refugee relief, where humans had acted without Council approval to help millions of displaced beings. Each act of kindness was twisted into evidence of human aggression. Each time humans had helped, the Council saw only rule-breaking and independence. Finally, Kiratal called for the formal accusations to be read. Humanity stands charged with aggressive expansion, technological hoarding, military buildup, and repeated violations of Council law. The remedy is clear. Earth and all human colonies must be expelled from Council space. The chamber fell silent. Sarah stood and activated her platform's speaking system. Honorable delegates, I ask you to remember what humans have actually done, not what you fear we might do. She gestured, and new holographs appeared. Human medical research has saved 50 million lives across 30 species. Our terraforming techniques have made barren worlds into gardens. When the Kepler system faced destruction, human ships were first to respond. When refugees needed help in Andromeda, humans provided food and shelter. Sarah's voice grew stronger. You call us aggressive for defending ourselves. You call us secretive for being careful with dangerous knowledge. You punish us for acting quickly when lives are at stake. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates who had once called themselves friends. We have never attacked a Council member. We have never taken resources that belong to others. We have never enslaved another species. Yet you treat us like monsters because we won't bow to every demand. The debate went on for hours, but Sarah knew the outcome was already decided. She had seen the private meetings. the secret deals. The major powers had agreed among themselves. Earth's fate was sealed. When the vote finally came, the numbers appeared in the air above the chamber. 623 votes for expulsion, 187 against, 37 abstentions. Keira stood again, her voice formal. The motion passes. Humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council. All human citizens have 30 standard days to withdraw from Council space. All disputed territories must be surrendered to rightful Council authority. Sarah felt the weight of failure settle on her shoulders. But she also felt something else. Relief. Earth would no longer have to pretend to be something it wasn't. The communication arrays linking Earth to the galactic network went dark immediately. Sarah's credentials were revoked on the spot. Council security forces moved to escort her from the chamber, but Sarah Chun wasn't finished. She activated her personal communicator, broadcasting on all frequencies her platform could reach. "Citizens of the galaxy," she said, her voice carrying to every ship, every station, every world that could receive it. "Today you have voted to cast humanity into darkness. You believe this makes you safer." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You have no idea what you just unleashed. For 150 years, humanity has tried to be good neighbors. We followed your rules. We respected your boundaries. We shared our discoveries when we could." Sarah's voice grew cold. "But you never wanted neighbors. You wanted servants. You wanted us to give up everything that makes us human and become just another voice in your collective." Security forces reached her platform, but she kept speaking. "We tried to fit into your system, but that system was never meant for us. You've taught us an important lesson today. Humanity doesn't need your permission to exist." She turned off her communicator and let the guards lead her away. Behind her, the chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates looked satisfied. Others seemed worried. In the viewing galleries, human observers watched their ambassador leave. Many were crying, but a few were smiling. They knew something the Council didn't. Earth had been preparing for this day for decades. Humanity had contingency plans the Council couldn't imagine. The 30-day deadline would be met, but not in the way anyone expected. As Sarah was escorted to the transport bay, she thought about the message she had sent earlier that day. A single coded transmission to Earth, containing just 2 words: Project Horizon. The real story was just beginning. The message reached Earth before Ambassador Chun's ship had even left Council space. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Marcus Webb stood in a room that officially didn't exist. Around him, holographic displays showed every human colony, every ship, every citizen in Council territory. "Project Horizon is active," announced the computer voice. "All stations acknowledge." Admiral Webb had hoped this day would never come, but he had spent 30 years preparing for it. The Shadow Council had been planning humanity's contingency since the first day Earth joined the Galactic. COMMUNIT, while Dr. Elena Vasquez was downloading files from the research station Prometheus when the evacuation order came through. Her fingers flew across the control panels as terabytes of data flowed into encrypted storage devices. Around her, other scientists worked frantically to save decades of research. "How much time do we have?" asked Dr. Kim, her research partner. "Council ships will be here in 6 hours, Elena replied. "We need to finish the downloads and prep the station for transport." "Transport?" Dr. Kim looked confused. "I thought we were just evacuating personnel." Elena smiled grimly. "We're taking everything. Every lab, every computer, every piece of equipment. The Council thinks they're getting our research facilities. They're wrong." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on hundreds of human installations. What looked like panicked evacuation to alien observers was actually the most organized. Operation in Human History. Captain James Harrison commanded a fleet of transport ships in the Centauri system. His job was to evacuate 50,000 colonists from 3 different worlds. But as his ships arrived, he wasn't just loading people. Entire manufacturing plants disappeared into cargo bays that seemed impossibly large. Space stations were dismantled and packed away like children's toys. Even the orbital mirrors used for terraforming were carefully removed. "Sir," his first officer reported, "Council observers are asking why we're taking industrial equipment." Harrison watched as another factory complex folded itself into a compact cube and floated into a cargo bay. "Tell them we're removing our property. Everything we built belongs to us." What the Council observers couldn't see was how the human cargo ships worked. The technology was based on principles the aliens didn't understand. Space could be folded, compressed, and expanded in ways that made a small ship capable of carrying entire cities. Director Jiang, Wei of Earth's Deep Space Intelligence, sat in his office, sending coded messages to agents throughout the galaxy. Some of these agents had been in place for decades. The Council had no idea how many humans worked in their governments, their military forces, their research centers. "Activate all assets," he ordered. "Begin Protocol Scorched Earth." The protocol wasn't about destroying things. It was about information. Every secret the humans had learned, every weakness they had discovered, every piece of intelligence they had gathered would be used to protect humanity's withdrawal. On Earth itself, the preparations were even more dramatic. Ambassador Chun's ship was one of thousands converging on the Sol system. But Earth wasn't just receiving refugees. It was transforming. The planet's surface shimmered with new construction. Buildings grew from the ground like living things. The moon became a massive construction site, where ships larger than anything the Council had ever seen were being assembled. Admiral Webb stood on the command deck of the orbital station Terra Prime, watching the evacuation feeds. 2.3 billion humans were coming home, but home was becoming something entirely new. "Sir," his aide reported, "the last transport fleet has cleared Council space." Webb nodded. "Any problems?" "Some Council ships tried to inspect our cargo, but they couldn't penetrate our shielding. They're confused about our ship signatures." That was by design. For 150 years, humanity had been careful to show the galaxy only what it expected to see. Human ships used engines that matched Council technology. Human weapons appeared no more advanced than standard galactic armaments. Human colonies looked like typical settlements, but it was all an act. Real human technology was centuries ahead of anything the Council possessed. The evacuation was revealing glimpses of humanity's true capabilities, and alien observers didn't know what to make of it. Dr. Elena Vasquez's research station Prometheus was one of the last to evacuate. As Council ships approached, her team finished their final task. The station's computers began erasing themselves, but not randomly. They left behind false data designed to confuse anyone who tried to study human research methods. "Station, ready for relocation," she announced. Elena watched through the viewport as massive human ships approached. The aliens thought Prometheus was just a research station. They had no idea it was also a test facility for technologies that could reshape matter at the atomic level. The station folded itself into a geometric shape that hurt to look at, then disappeared into one of the human ships. To Council observers, it looked like the station had been destroyed. In reality, it was being transported to a safe location. Captain Harrison's evacuation fleet was the largest single group leaving Council space. 50,000 colonists, their entire industrial base, and enough supplies to build a new civilization. But the most important cargo wasn't visible. Hidden in the deepest parts of his ships were the real treasures. Prototype technologies that made faster-than-light travel look primitive. Weapons that could make stars burn differently. Computers that thought in dimensions alien minds couldn't comprehend. As Harrison's fleet approached the edge of Council space, alien warships moved to escort them out. The aliens wanted to make sure humanity actually left and didn't try to hide in remote systems. "Sir," Harrison's navigator reported, "Council ships are scanning us." "Let them look," Harrison replied. "They can't see what matters." The human ships registered on alien sensors as exactly what they appeared to be: refugee transports carrying colonists and basic supplies. The scanning technology the Council used was designed to detect known threats. It couldn't identify dangers it had never imagined. Director Jan Wei received the final reports as the last human ships crossed into neutral space. The evacuation was complete, but so was something else. His agents had spent the 30-day period copying every important file in Council databases, mapping every military installation, and identifying every weakness in galactic defenses. "Scorched Earth protocol complete," he announced to Admiral Webb. "We know everything they know, and they know nothing about us." Admiral Webb studied the reports from across human space. The evacuation had gone perfectly, but more importantly, it had accomplished something the Council would never expect. Humanity was now completely invisible to galactic surveillance. The aliens thought they had expelled a dangerous neighbor. What they had actually done was release a completely independent civilization that no longer felt bound by any galactic laws or customs. Ambassador Chen's ship was among the last to reach Earth. As she stepped onto the orbital platform, she hardly recognized her homeworld. Earth had become the center of something vast and powerful. Ships from across human space were arriving constantly, but they weren't bringing refugees. They were bringing resources, technology, and plans for the future. Admiral Webb met her personally. "How do you feel about being unemployed?" he asked with a slight smile. Chun looked out at the transformed Earth below. "I think I'm going to like my new job better." She had no idea that her new job would be reshaping the galaxy itself. Intelligence analyst Zex High stared at the reports flooding into Council headquarters. 6 months had passed since humanity's banishment, and nothing was going according to plan. The Council expected to find humans struggling in remote space, barely surviving without galactic support. Instead, the spy drones were sending back impossible data. "Show me the Kepler sector again," Zex High ordered the computer. Holographic displays filled the room with images that made no sense. Where human colonies once existed, there were now massive industrial complexes floating in empty space. But according to all known science, nothing could survive in those radiation-filled zones. "Computer, analyze energy signatures from human installations." Unable to classify, the computer replied. "Energy patterns do not match any known technology in Council databases." Zex High's 4 eyes narrowed as she studied the data. She had been analyzing alien civilizations for 50 years, but humans were different. Every other species followed predictable patterns when they joined the galaxy. They adopted Council technology, followed Council trade routes, and built according to Council standards. Humans had never done any of that, but everyone assumed they were just stubborn. Now Zex High was beginning to understand the truth. Humans hadn't been adopting Council technology because they already had something better. "Show me transportation data," she commanded. The displays changed to show shipping routes across the galaxy. Before banishment, human cargo ships had followed standard paths, taking weeks or months to travel between systems. But the new data showed human ships appearing in distant galaxies that should take years to reach. "Computer, calculate travel time from Sol System to Andromeda Galaxy using fastest known FTL technology." 4 years. 7 months, came the response. "How long since human banishment?" 6 months, 12 days. Zex High felt a chill run through her body. Human ships were already operating in Andromeda. Either they had been there for years before the banishment, or they possessed travel technology that made Council FTL look like walking. She pulled up more reports. A Zenthran patrol had found a human mining operation in the Void sector, where space was so twisted that most ships couldn't even navigate. The miners were working in areas where gravity flowed in impossible directions, harvesting materials that shouldn't exist. Another report showed human children playing near a neutron star, protected by suits that let them survive radiation that would kill most species instantly. The energy levels involved were beyond anything Council science could produce, but the most disturbing reports came from the border regions. Space itself was changing in areas where humans operated. Standard navigation systems failed. Council ships found themselves unable to maintain course. Some vessels had gone missing entirely. HFY called up the file on Dr. Elena Vasquez, the human scientist who had worked on Prometheus Station. Before the evacuation, her research had seemed focused on basic terraforming techniques. But intelligence gathered during the withdrawal suggested something else entirely. Human terraforming didn't just change planets. It changed the fundamental laws of physics in local space. They weren't just making worlds habitable for humans. They were making reality itself more suitable for human technology and biology. Computer, show me comparative analysis of human industrial output before and after banishment. The numbers that appeared made HFY question her own sanity. Human manufacturing capacity had increased by over 3,000% in just 6 months. They were producing more advanced technology in remote space than they had ever built while part of the Council. She reviewed the footage of human evacuation ships again, this time with new understanding. The cargo holds that seemed impossibly large weren't tricks of perspective. Human ships existed partially in folded space, carrying entire civilizations in areas smaller than a Council fighter craft. The weapon signatures that registered as standard galactic armaments were deliberate deceptions. Real human weapons operated on principles Council science couldn't detect, much less understand. HFY opened a communication link to her superior, Fleet Admiral Korthvan. Sir, I need to brief you on the human situation. It's not what we thought. Analyst HFY, came the reply. Humans are a minor species we expelled from Council space. They cannot threaten galactic stability. Sir, with respect, that assessment may be incorrect. The data suggests humans have been concealing their true capabilities for over a century. There was a pause. Explain. HFY transmitted her findings. Human technology operates on principles we don't understand. Their manufacturing base exists in dimensions we can't detect. Their transportation network bypasses known FTL limitations. And they're actively reshaping space to suit their needs. Admiral Korthvan's response was skeptical. These are impossible claims, analyst. No species possesses such advanced technology. Sir, I recommend we send a fleet to investigate human activities directly. Very well. I'll assign a reconnaissance group to monitor the situation. The reconnaissance group was led by Fleet Commander Kethter of the Zenthran Navy. She commanded 50 ships. Enough firepower to conquer a small system. Her mission was simple: observe human activities and report back to Council headquarters. But when Kethter's fleet reached the coordinates where New Geneva Colony had once existed, they found something that challenged everything they knew about science. The planet was still there, but it was wrong. Gravity flowed in spirals around the surface. Time moved at different speeds in various regions. The electromagnetic spectrum had colors that didn't exist anywhere else in the universe. Sir, her science officer reported, our instruments can't make sense of this place. It's like the laws of physics are following different rules. Kethter ordered her ships to maintain a safe distance. Can we detect any human presence? There are energy signatures that might be artificial, but our sensors can't identify specific sources. As they watched, a human ship approached from the planet's surface. It moved in ways that violated everything Kethter knew about space travel, seeming to bend reality around itself rather than pushing through it. The human ship transmitted a message. Council vessels, you are in restricted space. Please state your business. Kethter responded personally. This is Fleet Commander Kethter. We are conducting routine reconnaissance in neutral space. Commander, this is Captain Harrison of the Terran Exploration Course. This system is now under human administration. All non-human vessels require permission to enter. Captain, this system was Council territory 6 months ago. Our charts show no human claims here. Harrison's voice remained calm. Your charts are outdated, Commander. We've made some improvements since we arrived. I'm afraid your current technology isn't compatible with our security measures. Kethter was about to respond when her navigation officer reported a problem. Sir, we can't calculate a jump to FTL. Our computers say the local space geometry won't support it. What do you mean? Kethter demanded. The space around this system has been modified somehow. Our FTL drives can't engage because the dimensional structure is wrong. Kethter felt ice in her veins. Captain Harrison, are you preventing us from leaving? Not preventing, Commander. But I'm afraid your ships weren't designed to operate in modified space. We can escort you to a location where your FTL systems will function normally. As Harrison's ship approached, Kethter saw him through the viewscreen. He looked human, but something was different. His skin seemed to shimmer with energy patterns. His eyes held depths that suggested impossible knowledge. Commander, Harrison continued, I want you to understand something important. We didn't ask to leave Council space. We were forced out. But you taught us an important lesson. We learned we need clear boundaries. He gestured toward the transformed planet below. This is human space now, not claimed territory or negotiated borders. This is space where human physics applies, where human technology works, where human beings can live safely. Kethter watched as other human ships appeared around her fleet. They moved like living things, bending space around themselves. Her weapon systems couldn't even target them properly. We don't want your territory, Harrison said. We never did. But we also don't want you in ours. You taught us that the galaxy isn't safe for humans under alien rules. When Kethter's fleet finally escaped the system, they carried news that would terrify the Council. Humanity hadn't just survived banishment. They had used their freedom to become something the galaxy had never seen before. Back at Intelligence Headquarters, Zexhai received Kethter's report and added it to her growing file. The evidence was clear. Humanity had never been a typical galactic species. They had been something far more advanced, deliberately hiding their true nature. Now they were free to show the galaxy what they really were. And space itself was bending to accommodate them. 2 years after the banishment, the first signs of collapse appeared in the Vorthic hegemony. Medical centers across their territory reported equipment failures that couldn't be explained or repaired. The bioregeneration systems that had saved millions of lives were shutting down one by one. Ambassador Kiratal, who had led the vote against humanity, stood in her private office reading reports that made her question everything. The technology humans had shared with the galaxy wasn't just advanced. It was designed to require constant human maintenance. How long before our medical systems fail completely? She asked her science advisor. 6 months, maybe less, came the grim reply. The human bioregeneration technology is breaking down at the quantum level. We don't understand the principles well enough to repair it. Similar problems were appearing across Council space. The terraforming equipment that made barren worlds habitable was malfunctioning. Agricultural systems that fed billions were producing smaller harvests each season. Even basic transportation networks were becoming unreliable. But the medical crisis was only the beginning. Trade routes that had operated safely for thousands of years were becoming dangerous. Ships reported strange phenomena, gravity wells that appeared from nowhere, radiation storms in supposedly empty space, and navigation systems that gave impossible readings. Captain Vexra of the Crystalline Collective was commanding a routine cargo run when her ship encountered one of these anomalies. Her crew was transporting food supplies to the outer colonies when space itself seemed to turn against them. "Captain, our engines are losing power," reported the chief engineer. "The local gravity is pulling energy directly from our power cores." Vexra looked at her instruments in confusion. According to every sensor, they were in normal space. But her ship was behaving as if caught in the gravity well of a massive star. "Sir, I'm detecting artificial structures in the area," announced the sensor operator. "But they don't match any known technology." On the main screen, strange geometric shapes became visible. They seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, hurting to look at directly. Around these structures, space itself appeared twisted and flowing. A new voice came through the communication system. "Crystalline vessel, this is the human ship Meridian. You've entered a construction zone. Please state your destination." "This is Captain Vexra," she replied. "We're on a standard trade route to the Outer Rim colonies. Our charts show this area as empty space." "I'm afraid your charts are outdated, Captain. This region is being modified for human use. I can guide you to a safe route around our work area." Vexra watched as a human ship approached. Like all human vessels she'd seen recently, it moved in ways that defied physics. It seemed to flow through space rather than travel through it. "Captain," the human voice continued, "I should warn you that this area will be permanently restricted to human traffic within the next few months. You might want to update your navigation systems." "Permanently restricted? By what authority?" The human captain's response was patient but firm. "By the authority of changed physics, Captain. The space we're working in isn't compatible with non-human technology anymore. Your ship simply won't be able to operate here." As Vexra's ship followed the human escort around the construction zone, she saw the scope of what humans were building. Entire star systems were being modified. Planets were being moved into new orbits. The very structure of space was being reshaped to follow human rules. Back in Council headquarters, emergency sessions were becoming daily occurrences. Fleet Admiral Korthvan faced a growing list of problems that seemed impossible to solve. "Sir," reported his aide, "we've lost contact with another colony in the Beta sector." "That's the 5th Nth this month. Lost contact? Are they under attack?" "No, sir. They're just unreachable. Our communication arrays can't penetrate the interference in that region." Korthvan studied the galactic map displayed before him. Nearly a quarter of the galaxy was now marked with warning zones where Council ships couldn't safely travel. These areas seemed to be expanding each month. "What do our scientists say about this interference?" "They believe humans are altering the fundamental structure of spacetime in those regions. The changes make standard FTL communication impossible." The economic impact was becoming severe. Trade routes that had connected the galaxy for millennia were being cut off. Colonies dependent on imports were running out of essential supplies. The carefully balanced economy that had kept peace for thousands of years was falling apart. Dr. Decalon, the Council's chief scientist, had been studying the human modifications for months. His reports grew more alarming with each update. "The humans aren't just building in space," he explained to the emergency council session. "They're changing the laws of physics themselves. In areas under their control, matter and energy behave according to human understanding rather than universal constants." Ambassador Kiratal felt fear growing in her chest. "What does that mean for our technology?" "It means our ships, our weapons, our life support systems. None of it works properly in human-controlled space. They've essentially created zones where only human technology can function. The implications were staggering. If humans continued expanding these modified zones, they could cut the galaxy in half. Council species would be trapped in isolated pockets, unable to maintain their civilization. Commander Kethter had been assigned to monitor the human expansion. Her reports painted a picture of systematic territorial control that was unlike anything in galactic history. "They're not conquering systems in the traditional sense," she reported. "They're making space itself uninhabitable for non-human life. Any territory they claim becomes permanently theirs because we physically can't enter it." Her latest encounter had been near the former human colony of Terra Nova. The system was now completely transformed. The star burned with a different color of light. The planets orbited in patterns that should have been gravitationally impossible. And in the space between worlds, structures existed that her instruments couldn't even detect properly. "Sir," her science officer had reported during that mission, "I'm reading life signs throughout this system, but they don't match any known biology." "Humans?" Kethter had asked. "If they are, they've been modified beyond recognition. They're surviving in conditions that would kill any carbon-based life form." The human captain who had escorted them out of the system looked normal enough, but Kethter had noticed subtle differences. His movements were too precise. His responses came too quickly. And when she looked closely at his eyes, she saw depths that suggested artificial enhancement. "Commander," he had told her as they parted, "I want you to understand that we're not your enemies. We never wanted conflict with the Council, but you made it clear that there's no place for us in your galaxy." He gestured toward the transformed system around them. "So we're making our own galaxy. One where humans can live and grow without asking permission from anyone." The message was clear. Humanity was creating a separate realm of existence, one where Council authority simply didn't apply. The final crisis came when the Zenthran home system lost contact with the galactic network. Their star system had become surrounded by the expanding zone of human-modified space. They were effectively cut off from the rest of the galaxy. In desperation, Fleet Admiral Korthvan authorized direct contact with human leadership. The response came from Ambassador Sarah Chun, though her title had changed. She was now called Speaker for Humanity. "Admiral," Chun's message began, "we understand your concerns about galactic stability. But the Council made its position clear 2 years ago. Humanity is not welcome in your galaxy." Korthvan replied immediately. "Speaker Chun, we're facing a humanitarian crisis. Entire populations are being cut off from essential supplies." Chun's response was prompt and unsympathetic. "The crisis exists because your civilization depends on technology you don't understand and can't maintain. That's not our problem anymore. But surely we can reach some accommodation, Admiral." Chun interrupted. "The vote to banish Earth passed by an overwhelming margin. You told us we were dangerous and unwanted. We've taken that lesson to heart. We're not dangerous to you anymore because we no longer share the same space." Korthvan realized with growing horror that humans weren't interested in returning to Council membership. They were creating a completely separate galactic civilization. "What are your terms?" he asked finally. "We don't have terms, Admiral. We have boundaries. Human space is human space. Council space is council space. We suggest you learn to live within your limitations." As communications ended, Korthvan understood that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The Council had created the very monster they feared, a human civilization that operated beyond their control or understanding. Humanity had taken the rejection, personally and literally. If the galaxy didn't want them, they would create their own galaxy where their rules applied, and there was nothing the Council could do to stop them. 5 years after the banishment vote, the largest diplomatic fleet in galactic history approached the Sol system. 300 ships representing every major council species had come to negotiate humanity's return to galactic civilization. Fleet. Admiral Korthvin stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching sensors that couldn't make sense of what they detected. Earth's solar system had become something that challenged every law of physics. He understood. The sun itself burned differently, its light containing spectrums that shouldn't exist. The planets moved in orbits that created patterns instead of simple ellipses. And surrounding everything were structures so massive they dwarfed his entire fleet. "Sir," his science officer reported, "I'm reading energy signatures that exceed our measurement capabilities. Whatever humans have built here generates more power than most star systems." Ambassador Karatal stood beside him, her forearms trembling slightly. The Vorthok leader who had championed humanity's expulsion now faced the consequences of her success. "Request permission to approach Earth," Korthvin ordered. The response came immediately. "Council Fleet, this is Terran Space Control. You are cleared to approach Earth Orbital Platform 7. Please maintain current formation and follow the guidance beacons." As they drew closer, the scale of human achievement became apparent. Earth wasn't just a planet anymore. It existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its surface visible through layers of folded space. Cities floated in impossible geometries. Continents had been reshaped into forms that hurt to look at directly. The moon had become a massive construction facility, where ships were built using principles the Council didn't recognize. Each vessel seemed alive, growing rather than being assembled, but it was the orbital platforms that truly demonstrated humanity's transformation. They weren't built, they were cultivated. Like crystal gardens that existed partially in normal space and partially in dimensions that Council science couldn't detect. "Sir," the navigation officer announced, "we're approaching Platform 7. The platform was larger than most space stations, but its size wasn't what made it impressive. It seemed to exist in several realities at once. Parts of it were solid and visible. Other sections flickered in and out of existence. Some areas glowed with energy patterns that created new colors. A docking bay opened in the platform's side, but the opening was wrong. It was larger inside than the platform's external dimensions should allow. The Council fleet fit comfortably in a space that looked too small to hold a single ship. Ambassador Sarah Chun waited for them in the reception area, but she had changed. Her appearance was still human, but there was something more about her now. Her skin seemed to contain starlight. Her eyes held depths that suggested she could see through multiple dimensions. "Welcome to Earth space," Chun said, her voice carrying harmonics that created music in the air. "I am Sarah Chun, Speaker for Humanity. Thank you for coming." Admiral Korthvin stepped forward, trying not to show his nervousness. "Speaker Chun, the Council has authorized me to negotiate humanity's return to galactic civilization." Chun's smile was patient but sad. "Admiral, I appreciate the gesture, but humanity has no interest in returning to the Council. But the galaxy is falling apart without human technology," protested Ambassador Kiratal. "Medical systems are failing. Trade routes are disrupted. Entire colonies are being cut off from civilization." "The galaxy is failing," Chun agreed, "but not because of human absence. It's failing because the Council built a civilization based on control rather than cooperation. You tried to force hundreds of species to follow the same rules, use the same technology, think the same way." She gestured toward a viewing window that showed Earth below. "Humans learned we work better when we're free to be ourselves. So we built something new." Chum led them to a conference room that existed in a space larger than the platform that contained it. The walls showed images of human civilization across the galaxy. Cities that floated in gas giant atmospheres. Colonies that existed inside stars. Communities built on the surface of black holes. "This is what humans have become," China explained. We're no longer limited by the physics you understand. We've learned to adapt reality to our needs, instead of adapting ourselves to reality's limitations. Admiral Korthvan studied the images with growing amazement and fear. How is any of this possible? Humans think differently than other species, Chun replied. You see the universe as a collection of rules to be followed. We see it as a collection of suggestions to be improved upon. Ambassador Karatal leaned forward desperately. But surely we can find some way to cooperate. The Council is willing to offer humanity full autonomy within our territorial agreements. Chun's expression hardened slightly. The Council's territorial agreements assume you have the right to grant territory in the first place. Humanity no longer recognizes that authority. She activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Nearly half of it was now shaded in blue. Human-controlled space where alien ships could not go. These are the new boundaries, Chun announced. Space where human physics applies. Territory where human civilization can grow without interference. You're cutting the galaxy in half, Korthvan protested. Millions of worlds will be isolated from each other. Millions of worlds will be free to develop their own solutions instead of depending on a system that never worked for everyone, Chun corrected. The Council forced unity through dependence. We're offering freedom through independence. Kuratal looked at the map with growing horror. What about the species trapped in isolated regions? How will they survive? The same way humans survived for thousands of years before joining the galaxy, Chun replied. By learning to rely on themselves and their immediate neighbors instead of a distant authority. Chun stood and walked to another display. But we're not abandoning everyone. Humanity is willing to establish partnerships with individual species who want genuine cooperation instead of imperial control. The display showed trade agreements, research partnerships, and mutual defense treaties. But they were all between humanity and individual species, not the Council as a whole. These are our terms, Chun announced. Humanity recognizes no galactic government. We will work with species who treat us as equals, not subjects. We will share technology with those who share with us, not those who demand our secrets. Admiral Korthvan realized the full scope of what humanity was offering. You want to replace the Council with bilateral relationships. We want to replace the Council with nothing, Chun corrected. Each species should be free to make its own choices about government, technology, and territory. The age of galactic empires is over. She activated another display showing human space in detail. In human territory, physics works according to human understanding. But we're not imposing our system on anyone else. You're free to maintain your own civilization in your own space, according to your own rules. And if we refuse these terms? Kiratal asked. Chun's expression remained calm. Then you continue living under your current system until it collapses completely. Humanity will neither help nor interfere. We'll simply continue growing in our own direction. The negotiations continued for days, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Council had no leverage against a civilization that operated by different physical laws. They could either accept humanity's terms or face the complete breakdown of their technological civilization. In the end, they accepted. The Galactic Council remained as a ceremonial body. But real power in the galaxy shifted to humanity's network of bilateral partnerships. Species that embraced cooperation and mutual respect found themselves with access to technologies that seemed like magic. Those that insisted on maintaining hierarchical control found themselves increasingly isolated. A year later, Ambassador Chun stood on Earth's surface, watching as alien students studied at human universities. The sky above was filled with ships from dozens of species, all working together on projects that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. The galaxy had been transformed from a rigid hierarchy into a community of independent civilizations linked by mutual interest rather than imposed authority. Humanity had taken their banishment and turned it into liberation, not just for themselves, but for everyone. The vote to banish Earth had indeed passed. But in losing their place in the galaxy, humans had gained the freedom to create something better. And in teaching them that lesson, the Council had ultimately freed itself from the limitations of its own imperial thinking. Space was vast enough for everyone to find their own path among the stars.